I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
This is Literature Tuesday. I'm gonna come up with some English thing. Now,
I'll get some glasses.
Nobody freak out. Right after this, we're gonna do a Slipknot review of a song, so we're not leaving our whatever.
Our roots,
our bloody roots. All the Sepultura fans know what that's about. No, so we're not doing that, but at the same time, I love books. I love classical books, and so I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so the first kind of character that I want to talk about is the big homie Holden Caulfield. I don't even think I'm pronouncing the name properly. Very big fan of Holden, and for me, Holden was kind of like one of the central characters in my life because I could relate to him a ton, which everybody says that.
Are you going to tell us what the name of the book is, or is that coming? Or
Oh, yeah, get the book. It's from the classic book by J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye. And honestly, if you don't know who Holden Caulfield was, then you don't deserve to know the title. Okay,
wow.
So...
Okay.
So, it's a pretty deep book. He's a pretty deep character, and me saying that was sort of like channeling his... That's how Holden is. Okay, so here's the thing about Holden. There's a million things I could say, but one of the things that really features in the story is Holden and his red hunting cap. And so that has a ton of metaphorical significance. Most people miss the significance of it, but never fear.
Vin is here!
Vin is here!
Yes!
And I'm going to show you why he wears that red hunting cap throughout the book. Okay, so, do you know where in the book he bought the hunting cap and why?
No, I know he got the hat because he, left all of his, I don't know, the people on his team, he left all their gear on the train or something.
So he's
a little vague.
He's in this private school, right? And he left the fencing team, he left all their gear on the train, so they had to forfeit. And so, obviously, everybody's pissed at him, so... Right after that, the next day, he goes into the store and he buys this red hunting hat. Here's the thing about the book, The Catcher in the Rye. One of the main issues, and we'll probably talk about the title next week, one of the main issues in the book is dealing with coming of age. It's sort of like a dystopian coming of age story. Coming of age story is like where you kind of leave behind childhood, you make peace with that, and then you go on to adulthood. What's so classic about Catcher in the Rye is this is a coming-of-age story with a main character who refuses to do it. That's the entire point of the book is him refusing to make that transition. And so the red hunting hat becomes extremely important when you read the book through that lens. Here's another often misunderstood aspect of the book. Where is Holden writing from or narrating the story from?
I believe that he's getting help for tuberculosis, but I think that a lot of people think that he's in a psychiatric unit or something like that.
Right. And that's because I prepped you before the show. I should.
No. I remember all this.
It's called a sanatorium, I think. But long story short, most people believe that Holden is actually in a psych ward or something like that because he had a breakdown. I don't think so. I think he's in a sanatorium. Toward the end of the book, the chapter, he actually says, and I quote, and another thing, I grew 6.5 inches last year. That's also how I practically got TB, tuberculosis. And in those days, they'd send you off to what they call a sanatorium.
You can rest and rehabilitate.
Right. Now, the sanatorium did have a resident psychologist, which is who I'm pretty sure Holden is talking to. Mm-hmm. Here's another clue that he's in a sort of a sanatorium. At the end of the book, the very end of the book, there's a scene where he's sitting in the rain and all this, right? And it's the most poignant scene in the book. We will actually talk about it in a second. But the very next chapter, which is only a page and a half and the book is over, Holden basically summarizes everything and he says, I could probably tell you about what I did after I went home and how I got sick and all. So he was sitting in the rain. We're going to talk about that in a second. And the very next scene, he's talking about getting sick. So Holden is actually, he's got pneumonia, tuberculosis, something. He's very sick. He's run down and he's in a sanatorium. That is going to be extremely important as the book progresses. You got it?
Got it.
All right. Now, Here's something that's very interesting. Holden has something...
We're at 5 minutes. I know you didn't want to go over 5.
Holden has something very negative to say about almost everyone, which if he knew you, he'd say something negative about you. By the way, do you see my red shirt? Red hat, red shirt. I didn't have a red hat, so it's for the big homie. Holden has something negative to say about pretty much everyone. Even the positive folks in the book, there's some sort of negative aspect to them, except for 2 people. One of them is his brother, Allie. The other one is his sister, Phoebe. Now, Allie, Holden says, is an awesome guy, very smart, very intelligent, just an all-around good person. And Allie would write poetry on his baseball glove, in between innings, which Holden thought was the bee's knees. And then he's got this head full of red hair, and then we hear that Allie dies of leukemia at 11 years old. And the other person who's got a head full of red hair is his sister, Phoebe.
His little sister.
His little sister, Phoebe. And she's sort of still sort of a child in Holden's mind, right? So here's the thing. The only 2 people in the book that are pure or awesome or good in Holden's mind are his little sister and his brother who died at 11. And his brother who dies at 11 basically gets frozen in time, right, as an 11-year-old child who never goes off to adulthood. And his sister Phoebe is still sort of a child who hasn't transitioned over into adulthood the way that Holden has. Now, here's something very interesting about Holden. This is what Holden says at the beginning of the book. I have gray hair, I really do. The one side of my head, the right side, is full of millions of gray hairs. I've had them ever since I was a kid, and yet I still act sometimes like I was only about 12. Remember, his brother dies at 11. He says he acts like, but here's the thing about Holden. He's been corrupted by age because he doesn't have a head full of red hair like Allie and Phoebe does. He's got millions of gray hairs on his right side. So what does he do after this horrible situation with the fencing team? He goes and he buys a red hat. Coincidence? Dum dum dum. I should get my guitar. Dum dum dum. No, it's not a coincidence. He wears that red hat because, remember, his younger brother Allie is stuck in childhood and he's never ever gonna go anywhere else, right? And his sister is still a pure, like in real time, child that's uncorrupted by age or adulthood. And so Holden uses his hat to kind of throughout the book, and there are times when he doesn't want to put it on around the other adults because he doesn't want to look corny, right? Because he understands that time has passed. Like, he's still a child. He's no longer a child. Like, he's like supposed to transition to adulthood like everybody else, but so he doesn't like to wear it around adults, but sometimes he'll wear it. Now, there is a very poignant scene at the end of the book. And in that scene, he's walking with his sister Phoebe, his redheaded sister Phoebe, and he is trying to convince her to go on this carousel. And what does she say initially?
No.
She says no because...
Doesn't she feel like she's too grown up?
She said she's too big.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, no, you're not. Come on. And she's like, well, then come on the ride with me. And he goes, no, I'm going to watch. And the reason he says no is because he understands that it's too late for him. He's already seen too much. He's already become too much of an adult to justify riding on the carousel. What's interesting is his sister is basically trying to say, I'm growing past that, and he doesn't want to accept that. So he goes on the carousel, okay? And then she jumps off, and he convinces her to go again. And in the most probably poignant scene in all of literature, we read the following, page 212. Then what she did, it damn near killed me. She reached into my coat pocket and took out my red hunting hat and put it on my head. Now keep in mind, all this rain is coming down on him, right? Because it's like starting to rain. So his sister comes and puts the red hunting hat on his head. Why is that significant?
Why is it significant? I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so his sister, who is sort of like the epitome in real time of innocence, puts the hat on him, right? And it's sort of like, okay, Holden, like, even though you're too big to go on the carousel, you're still kind of innocent on the inside. You're still like a child, and it's going to protect you from the cold outside world. And he says this, right? He says, my hunting hat really gave me quite a lot of protection in a way, but I got soaked anyway. And so this hat that he's wearing all throughout, at the end of the book, we realize it was protection. Protection in a way. And here's what's interesting. Notice how Holden says, what she did damn near killed him. What did she do? She gave him the hunting hat for protection, but it did not protect him from the outside world. It didn't protect him from the cold rain that's coming down. As a matter of fact, what does he say happened right after that episode when he's in the rain soaked with his sister? He got sick.
Yeah.
So the point is that no, the what she did actually almost killed him, in the sense of she offered him something to protect him, holding on to childhood to protect you from this outside world, the cold rain of the outside world and adulthood. If you do that, it'll actually kill you. And so you don't really get a sense, and he talks about this, like you don't really get a sense that Holden ever really figures out that he needs to move on and mature to adulthood. He basically says, I'm not talking about that anymore. But that's the significance of the hat. It's his last attempt to hold on to childhood. It's a way to connect himself to his brother Ali, who was frozen in time as a dead 11-year-old, and to connect himself to Phoebe, who in real time is still innocent, even though it's clear in a year or 2 or 3 that's going to be gone for her too. So that's the significance of the red hat. That's why I'm wearing the red shirt. And we will see you next week for more, I don't know, Literature Tuesday.
Sure.
Literature Tuesday sounds stupid, so somebody has to come up with something.
Yeah. Put
See
it
you guys.
in the comments. Sori out.
Vin out.